One of the most fascinating ways that the American legislative works is they have a bill which has an interesting name, like the TikTok ban bill. And when you read it, it has absolutely nothing to do with TikTok. So the bill doesn't actually guarantee that TikTok will be banned. Its text doesn't even mention TikTok or ByteDance. But it would give the Secretary of Commerce and President broad power to ban mobile or desktop applications and other types of technology products from countries regarded as a threat to national security. And within that bill, you also have things like 20 years if you use a VPN in order to bypass the ban. Now, the interesting thing is that if you're against the bill, they will say, oh, so you actually like TikTok. Like, let me tell you why TikTok is harmful. And then you get articles like that from the Wall Street Journal. It's very interesting how the American legislative functions. It doesn't work like this in Romania. I don't know if any other countries do it, but it's time and time again they will give a bill one name. The bill does absolutely nothing what's in the name, like the Patriot Act, right? It has nothing to do with patriotism. The infrastructure bill, very little to do with infrastructure, but a lot to do with diversity, inclusivity, equity, the environment, and they push that, and then they do the moral panic. And if you don't agree with the bill, if you don't agree with the Patriot Act, it's like, oh, so you're non-patriotic. But regarding the TikTok and Wall Street Journal, right, like they're suggesting that teenagers are being pushed harmful content. Now, the interesting thing about the algorithm is that it pushes what you're looking for, right? So these researchers, if they started looking for that type of content, that's what they get. But what's interesting is that the idea of parenting just doesn't exist anymore. Like, when I was a kid, we didn't have social media. I mean, it existed, but I personally didn't have it. It was very expensive to buy a computer. Very few people managed to afford one. So, if I went outside and I hanged with the wrong crowd, I could end up in prison. Some of my friends ended up in prison because I grew up in a very impoverished neighborhood with people from all walks of life. So the danger back then was a lot higher than it is now. Like a lot of people say, go outside, touch grass. It's bad outside, depending on where you live. Being able to go outside and play is a privilege, not a right. It's a privilege that some people from Chicago can't afford. Like, it's dangerous outside. But my point is that social media, with all of this stuff, is far, far, far less harmful than the stuff that I grew up with and my generation grew up with. And yet there was no moral panic back then. The way people managed to solve it was by parenting. So you had to know where your kid is, what your kid is doing. Like, the very idea that it's more difficult to parent a child at a computer is mind-blowing. Like, it's in your house. You know where the kid is. You can walk in on his room. You have access to the computer. When I grew up, there were no mobile phones, right? Like your parents didn't know where you are. Like, you would leave the house and they would say, be back by 4 p.m. They would ask, like, the general area of where you're at. But most of the times, they couldn't see you through a window. Like, you would just be gone and, you'd go to another block or you would go to someone else's house. Your parents didn't know anything about you for that duration. It was a lot more difficult to parent, and yet for some goddamn reason, they managed to. Like, my parents were really good at parenting. So I genuinely, do not understand, why is this mentality that corporations or the government has to parent the children? Like, it's so ridiculous. Like, okay, so let's say that you have on social media like TikTok things that encourage eating disorders. Where the fuck are the parents to say, like, hey, don't do that? That's nasty. Don't do it. It's bad. Like, let me show you some picture with someone who did it. You want to end up like that? Because that's how you end up like that. Where are the parents to be like, all right, well, let's go to a nutritionist and give you a healthy diet? Like, I genuinely, do not understand. Why is it that the internet would have more authority and more power than the actual parents? And we see this shit with AI as well. It's like, oh my god, the AI is giving misinformation. Where's the parents? Like, the parents should be coming up and say, hey, look, like, this AI, right? It's a program. It's not God. It doesn't know everything. Just because it says, just because it's from the AI doesn't mean it's true. Like, when is that conversation? But then again, I'm not surprised because the government doesn't believe the parents themselves are capable of taking care of themselves. The parents need fact checkers. The parents need, like, some authority to also help them understand the world. It's also very interesting, right? Like, if you have to buy a car or a house, there are no fact checkers, okay? Like, you're on your own. If you want to make a loan to buy a house, you're on your own. You got to do that yourself. If you can't pay, tough shit, right? There's no fact checkers. There's no one there to make sure there's no misinformation. No, nothing. It's only when it's about elections or cultural issues. Oh, all of a sudden, now is the chair of someone higher than you. Like, someone could lose their office. So all of a sudden, we need fact checkers. We need to make sure that there's no misinformation. We need to make sure that everything on the internet is sanitized. I generally don't know. It's like, is it because I'm thinking about this and I find it obnoxious as fuck? Like, why aren't other people protesting? Like, the idea, at least in my country, that you would treat an adult as a child is disgusting. Like, the moment you go to another Romanian, from Romania, like, I don't know how it's like Romanians who go abroad, like, maybe they're exposed to other culture. But if you come to Romania and you treat an actual adult as a child, they will resent you. They will look at you with disgust. It's like, what do you mean you have to fact check my information? Like, do you not believe that I'm capable of? Like, I'm an adult. What are you doing? I'm capable of making my own mind. But it seems that maybe, like, in the United States, it's also due to the education. I mean, they treat people like children still at the university level. Like, safe spaces, coloring books, like, all of this other shit. So, like, the people are being trained that, yeah, no, like, I need to obey authority. Authority is the nanny. Like, literally the nanny state. And I genuinely, like, do not understand why people put up with it. It's like, okay, let's ban TikTok because people just can't help themselves. I understand, like, banning TikTok because it collects and harvests information and is spyware and it can be used by another country in order to gather information on your citizens. Like, for example, you post a lot of dumb shit and after 20 years you end up becoming a politician. So then the Chinese government can go like, okay, well, this guy is a politician. Check to see if he had a TikTok account, and let's see if he posted anything that we can blackmail him with it, right? Because this is how it works. This is how it worked under communism. They didn't have TikTok, but since you were in school, like from that day, the secret police would start making a folder on you. So they would have a file on almost everyone. Now, they wouldn't check the file, right? It's just like something that sits there. But if you happen to become a problem, become a nuisance, if you were obtaining a high function, if you were about to become a politician and they needed something to bribe you with, then they would open the file. And it's the same thing with I assume, like, it's the same thing that can work with TikTok, right? Like, a lot of people are encouraged to post dumb shit online when they're young, embarrassing stuff, especially if the culture will change, which usually it does in 10 years. And then, like, you post some dumb shit when you're 16, you grow up, you end up becoming a senator or something, and then they can go, it's like, all right, well, let's see if this guy had a TikTok account. Let's see if he posted something edgy. So I understand why it's a national security risk, right? Although I would say that all social media do the same shit. It's not just TikTok that harvests information. I mean, Facebook harvests information, but I guess like that's an American company, so it's fine. But my point is, Twitter, like, it had access to people's DM and stuff. So, I understand the logic behind it, but spare me with the moral busybody. Oh, my children. Oh, yes. Oh, my children are exposed to harmful misinformation. My children should have parents. Like, this is the argument. All the time, every time. Social media is far less dangerous than going outside and touching grass. In many cases. Let me know what you guys think, and as usual, I will see you in the comment section. Take care.